In Charlotte, history is often replaced, but sometimes it's preserved. This is the story of one of those homes. Carefully restored, thoughtfully expanded, and now preparing for its next chapter. Because what stands here today may be older than what anyone ever expected.
We bought the house in 2005 with the understanding that it was dated 1828. And in fact, our mission was to restore the original house and then add on to it a new addition that would bring it into the 21st century. And as we started to do the restoration, when we started to peel back the walls and literally layers and layers of drywall and tar paper to get back to the original building, as we got into the structure, we realized the construction techniques used were much older than the 1828 date. For example, when we got into the walls, we realized that the framing of the building, the original building, is hand-hewn red oak with mortise-and-tenon joinery. And that is much earlier than what was being used in 1828 when dimensional lumber was already in fashion. The details of this construction are also somewhat unique in that there are a few other buildings around the Mecklenburg area that are of the same style and techniques used. In fact, we believe that there was a moving band of carpenters who were moving through the territory building these properties in the late 1700s. Some of the really surprising features that we found were that what had been modified somewhere in the past, when we got back to the original build, it was clear that the building was at one point an office and a home. So it would have had two front doors like you would find in many historic buildings. In addition, the joinery work, the building materials themselves were substantial, but hand-hewn. Everything was hand-hewn, including square nails, hand-forged square nails that are still here on the property and holding the building together in many places. So it's pretty rare, especially in Mecklenburg and in the South, to find a building like this still standing. Much of the Charlotte area has been rebuilt and modernized and redeveloped, and this particular property has been sitting here for at least 200 years. In fact, we think it's older than that. You can see this in building and homes such as the Latta Plantation or the Neal House, which are nearly identical in construction techniques and styles. We purchased the property with the intent of moving in and living it, adding to it so that we could carry it on and the property would continue into the next 100 years. But in fact, what we found was we became stewards of the property, and that is really a good way to think about it, to preserve what's here and to keep it operating moving into the future.
From a builder's perspective, I realized that we had the opportunity to save a piece of Charlotte history. The biggest challenge was probably restoring history. We were, everything we touched led to another layer. You open a wall and there were 4 layers behind that wall. I think I was most excited about the fact that most of these houses get torn down. There are very few like this in Charlotte, and we had the opportunity and someone who was willing to put the time and money into restoring something to a period accurate form. This is different than a typical renovation in that there are building materials here that we can't buy today. The lumber that was used in the construction of this project originally is better lumber than we can find today. They're old growth timber here, beautiful wood flooring that we can't get today without salvaging it from another old building. These moldings in this house were made by hand. They weren't made by machine. There were actual craftsmen working on this home. It was important to us to preserve the original structure while blending the addition as seamlessly as possible. One of the biggest challenges we had trying to make this all come together was opening the house up to create a flow that you were looking for in a more modern home that just wasn't here in a house from this time frame. They were very compartmentalized, largely for function, where today's homeowners want things to be more open and flow from one room to the next.
This property is so old. It goes back all the way to the early 1800s. It's been meticulously renovated to feature modern living. This property is very elegant and unique as it's located just minutes from SouthPark and has the ability having over 7,500 square feet. You've got a stunning pool, guest house, and it's over 2 acres. A long time ago, the kitchen actually used to be out by where the pool is, and as they've renovated the home to be up to modern standards, you now have that ability to create in a chef's kitchen, smell those fresh cookies, and spend those moments with your family creating, the next chapter of your life. I have the pleasure of working with Matt Alexander, and he provides an exceptional white glove service. He's meticulously detailed, organized, and he goes above and beyond for any of his clients. He's by far one of the best and most experienced agents in Charlotte.
So we're positioning this home as a truly modern estate that has been completely redone with a touch of history. Some people want it for the SouthPark location, others will want it for the history. I feel like the next steward of this home will be someone that really truly appreciates that this is a modern estate, but does have that bit of historical significance, whereas Charlotte, most properties don't have that. And so the next buyer for this house probably is someone that can really appreciate or get behind that. And we'd like it to continue on with someone who really appreciates that. This property itself is a bit different. It's unique in that it is a large piece of acreage. It does have a historic element to it, but at the same time, it is a very livable estate in the middle of SouthPark that has been updated in the last 20 years and is absolutely timeless. This is an inherited responsibility. There is a buyer for the house, but I think at the same time, that buyer knows that this house comes with a bit of responsibility attached. So there's some truly amazing history and facts that go along with this property that will be revealed as someone comes through. There's just so much rich history here with Mecklenburg County, the Revolutionary War. There's only been 6 owners in the last 200 plus years. So whoever the next buyer is going to really have a chance to carry something forward that's so unique. Some homes are preserved, others are carried forward. The William Lee House is not just part of Charlotte's past, it's an opportunity to define its future.